positive anode, cathode is negative. That's P-A-N-I-C, don't panic.
Negative
Right.
is well,
How do you say that?
positive anode, negative is cathode.
Yeah. So this will sit nicely like that. And I have the it's a metal 3mm holder. So the next step for me is dry fitting the 1/4" jacks. Fit nice. So we're going to be soldering wires onto the 1/4" jacks and also the power connector. And what we're going to want to do is make sure those wires are about perfect length to go back and attach onto this, our switching PCB. So I'm going to pause this and solder up those wires, and I'll see you in a minute. Here's a tip on wire. Get your money for nothing and wire for free. Check out my video where I get my wire and my chassis from. This wire comes out of a PC switch box, and it's the perfect length, pre-tinned wire. The only thing is you've got to kind of scrounge for that. Now, I went ahead and hooked up a pair of wires for each the input and the output jack. I've got the tabs bent over on these 1/4" jacks, and the way they're going to face is kind of with the bent part facing each other on this pedal. It's kind of different. Every chassis, every pedal I do might be a little different. Usually a lot of times I will have the connections facing up, and I'll run a little tape around that. The only time that I use tape in these builds is to insulate around the leads. I do that. You don't have to, but I do. Now, taking a look at this power connector, this type of power connector, the Lumberg, it's the smaller one, and it only has 2 connections. There is a long wire and a short wire. And on this one, I used my continuity test, my beep beep cont test. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the small connector and then hit the center. And what I'm finding out is the outer connector, or the ground, is the long. And the inner connector is the short. So the inner connector on a pedal power supply, we're going with Boss Standard, is going to be the ground on the inner. The outer connection or wait, is that reverse? So yeah, the long one is usually positive, like on an LED. It's a not. It's the opposite on this type of jack. So I'm going to solder the red wire to the longy. Wait a minute. This is getting so unbelievably confusing. Okay, I got that red wire on that long one, and now let me go ahead and test to make sure I didn't do this wrong. So this is my positive wire, and positive is going to be the outer connection. It's not going to be the center because this is pedals. The center is going to be the ground. So now I'm going to take a green wire. I use a red and a green for this. Like what I would recommend is you develop a system, meaning, like engineers will often say, something about with the colors of the wires, like the hottest color is closer to the color of the sun, like doing things that way and doing things the same way. For me, I like to do whatever pops in my head first and then try to repeat that. Meaning, if I went back and tried to troubleshoot one of my early builds, I wouldn't have to figure out, I wouldn't have to stop and scratch my head. Well, gee, I wonder what this wire is and look at where it's going to. I would just know that my input wire is white. It's like the signal coming in has not been affected, so it's white. Coming out of the effect, going to the output jack, the hot wire, I use a yellow, because in the movie Popeye, at the end when they fought, Brutus swam away, Bluto turned yellow. So to me that means exit, and I use that yellow for the output. So we got a red wire for coming in 9 volts and a green wire for coming in with the ground. Green is always ground, or black. Now the thing at this point, I have this extra toggle switch. I need to decide where that's going to go. Yeah, my holes for the pots are, looks like the right size. I had some stuff that was had to be drilled out in this. It wasn't quite large enough. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to mark out where I'm going to want to drill for the extra switch. There wasn't enough holes drilled in this build, so I'm going to need to use my center punch, which I had all that stuff out here and it's all gone now. Honey, did I give you my center punch? Did I? Oh, no. I found it. So I kind of just eyed it out, and I'm gonna all right, and then grab one of these dull drill bits. I've used them so many times, and I've got this jive turkey board here. Let me use a piece of paper towel to put down on this board. I really don't want to mar. All right. So here we're going for a hole for the extra toggle switch. So we don't need a real wide diameter hole. We use the center punch to avoid running. And I'm going to go in through the top. Oh, there's demons everywhere. And a little bit more. That should be good. Let's take a look. We've got our switch here. The hole that I drilled is just about the same size as a potentiometer hole, and we're right. So it's a little close to the other potentiometer, but we got to leave room for my big flick. And it's off by about a millimeter, because in DIY what you realize is don't even try to make it straight. And people would think you bought it. So at this point we are ready to start slapping everything into place. What I like to do is try to reduce the wire lengths to make them kind of just as long as they need to be without having a real lot of excess wire in the pedal. But you can screw yourself doing that. You really got to make sure you leave enough extra for stuff to be able to move around. And okay, we have a bias, we have something with an X on it. I think that X is voltage. This pedal has a voltage sag, it has a volume pot, and it has a bias. And this here coming off the 100K is the output. This red one is the power input. This mass thing here is a multiple ground, a split ground. This pink one, that must be the input. So probably what I will do is obtain some sticky pads. I have these sticky pads. They're double adhesive. Hey darling,
Yeah.
would you grab me that package of sticky pads? And that's going to hold my PCB in place. So at this point is where the pedal starts really kind of going together. And I'm going to take a break.